This episode of the Pain Education Corner is sponsored by the Comella Foundation. The Comella Foundation is committed to relieving pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. Here at the Comella Foundation, we envision a world where people achieve their maximum potential by being empowered with knowledge and skills to heal themselves and others. This information is to be used for educational purposes only and not to be construed as medical advice. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Hello, it's Bill, the knee pain guru. Welcome to the Pain Education Podcast brought to you by the Comella Foundation. Today, we have a very special friend of mine, Jeanie Anderson. I've known Jeanie for years. Her and I, it's been at least 15 years that I could remember. But Jeanie, I want to welcome you to the show, and I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanie Anderson. I live in Farrell, Pennsylvania.
That's Pittsburgh area, correct?
That's outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I've been in this field for a really long time. So I started out with an automobile accident that put me here into this position. And so after my automobile accident, the prognosis I had afterwards was rather bleak as far as being able to function normally. And I would not accept that. And so I refused a lot of what they wanted to do or what they said they were going to do, and started a restart. That's how I got that's how I became interested in the natural health realm, because the medical system did not support me in the way that I wanted to be supported. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I just started delving in, studying, and, got several degrees in it and just kept moving forward. And as I moved forward, I changed my whole physical being and can do things that they said I would never be able to do. So that is how I got here.
Okay, Jeanie. Now, because I know you.
Okay, good.
You glossed over the magnitude of what put you on the path. Now, you were in a car accident. Could you share with the listeners what was going on with Jeanie right after the accident? Like
being hospitalized,
the shoulder, the ankle.
Oh, okay.
What happened? Like, what did you do? You got in the accident. What happened to you?
Oh, I ended up breaking my arm and my left arm and my left clavicle. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, but.
Well, I think it's going to be helpful for those listening to understand, because a lot of times when people are in pain, they're just like, nobody understands me. Nobody's been in the level of pain I've been in.
Okay.
And this is what happens when people go to a doctor or physical therapist. The doctor and the physical therapist are giving them instructions based on what they learned in a class or in text, but they don't necessarily have that personal experience.
Right.
And I think where we're headed right now in the world in general is for people to know that, oh, that person over there has been through the same stuff I've gone through. I was in a car accident. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to have this surgery. I died on the operating table. And when people recognize that other people have been in the magnitude of an injury that you've been in, they're going to go, oh, I can trust her.
I see.
Because she gets it. She understands what I've been in and what I've been through. So I think having that experience, giving listeners a snapshot of that is going to be super helpful for people going, hey, I think Jeanie can help me. Or hey, I think Jeanie knows who could help me. Because that's going to lead into what we're going to talk about later on in today's podcast.
Okay.
Because I know your arm wasn't attached. And I know your ankle has a lot of pins and screws and plates and stuff like that in it. So I think that's going to be really helpful for people to understand that.
Okay. I just didn't. Okay. All right. So do we start again or?
No, you just like car accident.
Excuse me.
Car accident. You're in the hospital now. What are the doctors telling you? What are the doctors doing?
Well, my clavicle on my left side and my upper arm was broken, and my ankle was shattered. I had multiple contusions, cuts all over the place, and when they didn't work on my arm right away because of they figured it would just heal on its own. And so they did work on my ankle. They went in and they pinned and screwed it all together. And 3 months later, those pins and screws, my ankle was so swollen constantly that it was reacting to the pins and screws. And so then they had to remove those pins and screws and told me that, my ankle would have to probably be fused in place in order for me to maneuver around. And so they sent me to physical therapy trying to learn how to use my ankle. And I ended up leaving physical therapy with the fact that this was probably all the further I would get, which left me with a major limp, which I knew was going to throw the whole rest of my body off walking. So as I was so from there, I went to now, see, I just lost everything. What do I do?
Well, you're talking about the ankle. They were going to fuse the ankle.
Right. And so when they told me, when my time was up with physical therapy and they told me this is all that you're going to end up having. And then when I went to the doctor, he said, we may have to fuse it in place. Mm-hmm. And I just walked out of there with my thoughts of, no, you're not doing that. I will figure out how to get this ankle, maneuvering and working right. So that's what I did. I still had my arm in a sling and a cast for quite a while, for 3 months, and went to the doctors for that one. And I said, so they took all that out, and then I tried to use my arm and it wasn't working right. So I ended up, wondering what to do about that. And because the doctors didn't seem to know what to do. And so the doctor put me back in physical therapy for my arm. And so I'm trying to use weights and stuff to get my arm to work right. And it's not working right. And I can't figure out why. So the one day I was on a physical therapy table, I ended up looking at my arms and realizing that my left arm, they never bothered to look and check to see if it was rotated too far to the left where the break was. The break was so clean that they just, what they did was just casted it together, put a splint cast on it and just held it in place for 3 months. Then they decided because it was not working right and it ached in that area, they would go in and metal plate it. So they went in and metal plated my arm back together. And then when they were done with that, and I came out of surgery, I was trying to use my arm and it was rotated too far to the left and not working right. And then I realized they didn't bother to check to see that the arm was in position before metal plating it together. Went to a surgeon in Pittsburgh to see, can this metal plate be taken out? And he said, well, it could be, but you may lose, there's a nerve that goes where that incision is. There's a nerve that goes down to your wrist. And you know, I can't guarantee I won't sever that nerve.
Ooh.
And he said, so you may end up with not being able to use your hand. You would have a limp wrist.
Oh,
and I went, okay, not doing that one. I will learn to live with the arm. So, you know, I ended up walking away learning that I had to learn how to figure out how to get my ankle to work again, how to get my arm to work again. So I started on my journey. The first place I started to go was chiropractic to see. I was turned down by a lot of chiropractors because they took one look at me and said, I'm not touching that. And I finally found one chiropractor who would, and she ended up, she did marvelous work on my ankle. She got in there with her knuckles and dug in and broke up all kinds of tissue and that was adhesions and things like that. And she was fantastic. Then she retired on me. So I just kept going on my journey and finding, and people would, I would just be introduced to people and it would be like, wow, okay, you're my next person to work with.
Right.
So I had a whole list of people that I worked with. You know, they worked on my ankle, and because my ankle was limited in so many ways, of course, my knee was affected, my hip was affected, my back was affected, my neck was affected, you know, let alone the whiplash and everything that my neck took from this automobile accident.
Did you have a concussion as well as?
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Nothing was said to me. I did not really, I had locked my arm on the steering wheel, so I prevented my head from really, as much as I could, prevented. Plus I had my son in the seat and I was trying to hold him in the seat.
Sure.
So I was kind of turned. I just got hit with a lot of glass on the side of my face. And actually locked myself in this position. And this position I have been releasing from for years, and I'm still releasing from it. You know, but this has been a journey. It's been a fantastic journey.
Sure.
Because I have learned so much. Once I started learning what how to change my body around and make it work normally, even though it's not normal,
right.
Make it work normally has been just phenomenal. So I have gained, my ankle was limited, very limited as far as movement goes. I could not rock it sideways, frontwards. I could move it very little up and down, very little. And so I started working on it. I decided, okay, this is my job. So I'm working on it and I'm like, okay, something's still not working right. What am I doing wrong? So I thought about it. I was outside walking and I thought about it and I thought, okay, wait a minute. My left leg works right. Let me see what it's doing. So I was watching my left leg and then all of a sudden I realized, and then I would take a step on my right leg and went, oh, so when I take a step forward, instead of my knee bending forward, it was bending backwards, which made me limp even more. So then I started working with that. Now that bending of my knee on my ankle, that without having that motion, it was a painful thing to do. And so I had to work with it very little at a time. And as I kept working with it, the muscles stretched, ligaments tightened up, everything just worked. You know, it started to loosen. The bone then was starting to also dissolve as I worked on it. So now the ankle that I have now is at least half the size of it was after the accident. And I have much more range of motion in it now, just from learning how to walk properly.
Sure. And just so everybody's clear, when you talk about the bone dissolve, can you talk about that a little bit more so we don't freak people out?
Okay. Well, your body is very interesting. Okay. We look at it as being stuck a lot of times in our situations. And what I've learned through my situation is that the body heals itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a restriction and you're doing the right thing to help alleviate that restriction, then that restriction can actually, your body, for instance, my body built this bone mass around my ankle because it was not structurally sound. I mean, that wasn't there when I had my accident. So it built itself up to protect me so that I could stand on it and not fall over. But that bone mass became interference in the fact that it hindered me from moving forward. So as I worked on it, as I put pressure on it little by little, not a whole lot at a time, because then it builds up inflammation and that creates a whole nother problem. So as I worked on it little by little and showing my body that this ankle can work, the body itself starts to dissolve. It can dissolve bone that's built up like that. All right. When it's hindering a joint from functioning. And so that's what happened. And so that bone the body just kept absorbing it and absorbing it. And as it kept absorbing it, then I began to get more range of motion. So, but this is a process I've been doing for years and years, and I am still gaining more range of motion. Actually, in the past 4 years, in the past 4 years is the first time I was able to run. Cool. And so that was phenomenal when I could run, because there was no way I could run. I couldn't walk up hills, let alone run. And so because of the body doing that, it released my ankle enough that I actually run uphill now, which that was the range of motion I lost a lot in. And so, you know, the body is, as I was working on my body, I learned this body is rather miraculous. And that's when I started being catapulted into, you know, what I do now, you know, so my practice was.
Could you give a time frame from the accident to when you finally worked on all this to be able to run in the past 4 years? How long of a span was that?
Oh my gosh, that was, let me see here. So my automobile accident was when I was 27 years old.
Okay.
And at that age, you didn't want to be laid up and crippled for the rest of your life.
So this was 3 years?
Pardon me?
3 years?
No, 20 some years.
How many?
Actually, I was 27, so it's like 50 years.
Okay, got it.
50 years that I was able to run.
Okay, and this is hugely important, what you just shared. And I don't know if you
Sorry, it wasn't 50 years. It was 30 years.
30 years. Okay,
yeah.
30 years. And it's hugely important because I have so many people that are told by medical professionals that it's like, well, if you don't have the range of motion in your knee, your hip, your neck, whatever it is, within 6 months after the surgery, that's it.
Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize that it's not necessarily true.
No, it is not true. It is not true. That was the biggest lesson I learned. Yeah. And it was through, you know, all the classes I started to attend too. It was really interesting because the first class I started to attend, I had studied nutrition when I was 23. I got into nutrition. So I had all the nutritional aspect down, the herbs that were going to help me, the vitamins, so on and so forth. But this whole structural thing was a different thing. So what ended up happening was a friend of mine invited me to go to a Ortho-Bionomy class. Ortho-Bionomy was one of the biggest practices that helped me, modalities, I should say, that helped me realize my body could do a lot. And through Ortho-Bionomy, what happened was that released all the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons that were holding tight because it did not release from the accident. So as I continued to take those classes and to learn and have this where the students all worked on each other and kept getting worked on, that helped a lot. As well as the chiropractors that were keeping my body stabilized, you know, my spine, especially with the way I walked and everything else. So the chiropractors, you know, kept me, and I would go to one and he would do his thing for a length of time and I realized he was done. So I find my next chiropractor, and actually I didn't find them. They actually came to me. That was kind of interesting, you know, because I was attracting them. It was like, okay, I need somebody else to help me. And so then I would, you know, all of a sudden come across this other chiropractor, find out what they did and went, okay, you're my next person to take me where I need to go. And I've gone through several chiropractors. They take me to where they need to go. And then I need to move on to the next one to take me the rest of the way, you know, so that's what I've done with all the practitioners that I have worked with. And plus through all my studies, you know, in taking all my schooling and classes and things like that, you know, that has all fed into this too, knowing what to do. So what I do now is when I work with people, first, you know, one of the major things is structural. I look at that because if their structure is off, then their internal organs are off, you know, everything is off. So we have to look at that structural piece first and make sure they're balanced structurally and work on them and teach them how to stay balanced structurally. And then as I'm doing that also, I am working with, you know, the rest of their body, trying to figure out. The other thing you deal with is emotions. You know, those emotions. I mean, I thought my son was going to bleed to death. He was so cut up so bad. And there was nobody around us. We were on a back road. This car came around a corner, hit us, and we were just stuck in this situation. And when everything stopped moving and I looked over at him, he was blood from head to toe. And I was terrified. I thought he's going to die and there's nothing I can do because I'm all broken. I'm trying to reach over to help him. I'm pinned in from the way, you know, from the top above the knees down. And so I just started praying. And this little girl come across a field of distance, she heard this noise. And I happened to know her because this was right in my hometown. And I said, Lori, please run home, get an ambulance. Eric's going to bleed to death. And so, you know, so I had all that emotion going on in me, you know, I had to deal with all of that. And so there's all this emotion involved too, when you're in something like that, or when you structurally are not working right, there's emotion. When you physically are not working right, there's emotion. So I tie a lot of emotional work into my practice too. When I'll be working with somebody and I'll go, oh, wait a minute, there's an emotion. Let me look what this emotion is and let's find it and let's release it. And so, you know, so that's what I do. I also release emotions to get people where they need to be in their journey.
So that, like what you just shared, is incredibly, incredibly valuable for people that are looking for help. To know that you've been through that experience and you went from the doctors being like, okay, the doctor is going to take care of me, to like, now I'm on my own path and partnering with the people that come across my path to help me improve on my existing situation. And I think that is a huge, huge mindset shift for a lot of people, where they put, whether it be the medical professional, whether it be the massage therapist or the herbalist or whoever that is, they put them on that pedestal that what this person says is gospel, when in actuality, we need to take that into our experience. We need to bring that into our life and based on our past experiences, based on what we've studied and learned and know about ourselves, and kind of figure out, well, what does make sense?
Right.
Because to go and give that power to someone else disempowers us. So I think that what I hear you saying is that process. And even though you are now working with clients, you have not gotten off that journey. You still bring people into your experience on your path that continue to help for you to grow and continue to improve on your things. So now 30 years after your initial injury, you got back to running.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
It is. Yeah. And like I said, and that's what I tell everybody who comes into my office. This is a journey, especially if they've been through something similar to what I've been through. This is a journey, and that's what life is all about. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
There is no arrival. It's not that you're going to do all this stuff and then all of a sudden there's an arrival, because that's what everybody looks for. They
Mm-hmm.
look for an emotional arrival. They look for a physical arrival. It's not an arrival. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave your mind open to this journey, then you can, it was amazing how these chiropractors and these body workers and everybody would just all of a sudden be there when I needed them.
Mm-hmm.
And it may have taken a month or two or a year before I would know that, oh, this is my next person. And
Right.
just by talking to them and stuff, I knew that was my next person to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when it was time to leave them and find my next person. And
Cool.
so, and that journey was just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just met wonderful people.
Mm-hmm.
And through that journey, and learning all about the different types of techniques out there. I mean, I had never known about ortho-bionomy. I had heard about chiropractic,
Mm-hmm.
but never would have known about ortho-bionomy if it hadn't been for, someone introducing me to it and letting me know this is available.
Yep.
And that was where I got the most improvement was
Mm-hmm.
there. So,
yeah, me too.
yeah. Right.
But with all that, well, it was very much a similar path for me.
Yeah.
I was starting to go to different healing seminars back in October or fall of 99 after my knee surgery in June. And I had all this time on my hands where I couldn't lift weights and run and bike and go to judo and throw people. And then I end up in this ortho-bionomy class that the instructor was like, well, Ortho-Bionomy, who was founded by a British osteopath who was also a judo instructor. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. The record scratched. I was like, he studied what?
Yeah.
And that was my connection. And then all the people that I studied with were, the people in that first class, they were doctors and PTs and massage therapists. And when they talked about the scapula, I was like, what part of the body was that?
Yeah.
And with that understanding, and I think this is really important for people to get this, especially the listeners, is that you don't need to be a medical professional. Right. You don't need to have this extensive bodywork experience or understand anatomy and physiology or stuff like that. You're learning about yourself in the process.
Exactly. Right.
So, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But
it was interesting because partway in my journey, my oldest son decided to become, he got into karate. And he became a black belt in karate, and his instructor put him in charge of one of the schools that he had. And my whole life had wanted to take karate. Now it was like, well, this is, I'm not going to be able to do that now. And then I thought, no, I'm going to work at it. I'm going to try it. So I contacted him and I said, do you think you could help me out? I'm going to come to your classes. And I said, I trust because you know my limitations, that I have at this present time. And it ended up that I went there. He talked to his superior and they said, yes, she could do it. And so I went there and I could not jump. And so all of a sudden I'm in a class of learning to jump kick. And it was like, okay, new technique to learn.
Sure.
And so I ended up learning how to jump kick, and that was the really amazing for me.
Sure.
Was really amazing. So, because really landing on that ankle, I had to learn how to take landing on that ankle without me falling to the ground. So, it was cool. That was cool too. And it was the fact that my son was part of it.
Sure. Okay, let's go into your training.
Okay.
I think in that process, you said before the accident you were studying nutrition and herbalism and things like that. Kind of give a brief overview of your experience. I know you're a lifelong learner.
Yeah, yes, I am. I'm still learning.
So can you give an idea for our listeners of what you've studied?
Well, I knew when I was in the automobile accident that the nutritional studies that I had been doing was preparing me for this, because
Mhm.
it was that I needed to use for pain relief and so on and so forth, the herbs and watching what I was eating, inflammatory foods and stuff. So that was part of my schooling there that was just on my own. And because of that, I started researching, finding where I could go to, to learn.
Mhm.
And so I ended up finding this group of people called Certified Natural Health Professionals. And so I started working with them, and I started going to classes with them. They were coming to the Pittsburgh area, and I would go take the classes and became a certified natural health professional, taking all of those classes, which taught everything about the body. As far as it would deal with structure, it would deal with vitamins and minerals, herbs, emotional work. I mean, they address the whole body. And so I took all of those classes, and then I ended up going to Trinity School of Natural Healing and getting my naturopathic degree, considered a traditional naturopath. I do not, I only do things very naturally, the way it was intended to be. And so then there was another technique that I learned that was called natural healing. And actually that came from total body modification. That was the first one I took. And then I took natural healing, total body modification. I became certified in that. That takes the body, or it shows you how the body can function and how you can release emotion and working with that. And total body modification ties in the nerves and everything, and so there's different techniques in there that can release tension in the body too, as well as the physical part of the body and glands. You can take a look, and there, what that teaches you is the fact that the organs and glands are all attached to the spine of the body. And so the spine is connected to all those organs and glands through nerves. And so whenever there is something going on with a particular part of the body, what happens is you can go to the back. And for instance, the liver is connected to thoracic 2, thoracic 5, and thoracic 7. And so you can go and stimulate the spine, and that can cause those nerves to calm down and release the spine. And so then that helps the liver become more relaxed, and it also releases the spine from being tense, because the liver's tense. So we're so connected in the body, it's amazing. And so this total body modification was what that was all about. So in order to release some of my structure, I had to look at the organs too, which is what they show you to see. And so I was able to release, and it also, total body modification also uses emotional work too, because there's emotions attached to that organ and the spine. And so you have to acetate whether, what you need to do first. Do you do the structural part first, or do you release the emotion first? And you do that all with a technique called muscle testing. And so that will tell you where you begin. So we have a tendency to just, do what we want to do, but we don't really ask the body what it done. And so through muscle testing, that's the body tells you what it needs to have done first. And so if you follow it in that sequence, a lot of times it releases a whole lot easier. If it doesn't release, then there's something else involved. So then you need to look what else is involved, and you can get that information from the body. And once again, that is through muscle testing. Muscle testing is very interesting in the fact that we are a magnet on this earth. Most people don't know that. And so we are a magnetic field. And we have a north and a south pole, just like a magnet does. That's how we're attracted to the earth. If we didn't have a north and south pole, we would not be standing on the earth. And so by keeping that north and south pole balance, that helps your body to function better. It helps your structure to function better. It helps your organs to function better. And so, and because of that, you can dip into figuring out what's going on with the body by using a muscle in the body. So what I use is the arm. If the arm is available. Sometimes there's something wrong with the arm, you know, so you won't be able to use the arm. So I can use a leg. I can use fingers. You know, I can tell somebody to put their fingers together, and then I can try and pull them apart to see if they can hold that together. If they can hold it together, then that's fine. If they can't, there's something out of balance.
And just so I'm clear, and for those that are watching this are clear, our nervous system, our body is an electrical system.
Correct.
And it either completes a circuit, and if it completes that circuit, the body is strong.
Correct.
And if a fuse is blown in that circuit, then when you muscle test, something is going to show up weak.
Yes, correct.
So you've muscle tested me, and you will like zip through, and you'll be like, and you're testing. And I'm like, okay, it's strong. And all of a sudden you'll touch something and my arm will just go bloop.
Yeah.
It is not conscious. Even if I wanted to be like as strong as I possibly could, whatever Jeanie, whatever you're doing is bypassing whatever's going on in my head that would say, keep that arm strong. So I just want to emphasize to those that are listening, what you're asking the body to zero in on exactly where this issue is and on what level that issue is, whether it be physical or organ or emotional or mental or whatever that is. This is going on faster than we could even think about it.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure we got that out, because when we're in the biz, as you and I are, it's real easy just to talk the lingo.
Yes.
And then those that aren't familiar with it are just going to be like, huh? What are they talking about? So I think this is incredibly valuable. Your knowledge and understanding on how to muscle test the body is a way of cutting out all of the things of you needing to get like this extensive history of what's going on, or the person trying to figure out what to say to you, that we can go zip. We need to address that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is a client will come in, and I will first of all make sure their magnetic field is balanced.
Okay.
Because sometimes their north and south pole is out of balance. So I bring that back into balance. And if that's not in balance, you're going to get the wrong answers from the body.
How can our north and south pole get out of balance? What happens?
Well, an accident such as my own. Okay. Emotions can throw it out of balance.
Okay.
Yes. And
wireless cell phones.
Yeah. Electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Computers. So usually when I'm in front of the computer, I walk away and thump my chest. Thumping my chest can write my magnetic field. So I will thump my chest and bring my magnetic field back into, and it's a rhythmic pattern. It's not just tap, 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 tap. It's a rhythmic pattern. And you thump that for a while, and it brings your magnetic field right back into balance.
Okay.
Okay. And so, that has to be balanced in order for me to assess the body and see what is going on with it. And so the muscle testing, you have to have some instruction, a little bit of instruction with that, because you need to know whether you're getting the right answers or not. Okay, so the muscle will tell you, you make statements basically. All right, it's not asking questions because questions are open-ended. So you want to make a statement and then you want to apply pressure, let's say to the arm. And if you make a statement and the arm is strong, then that's a true statement.
So the statements that you're talking about specifically are like a true or false, yes or no.
Yes,
we're
correct.
looking for like a black and white kind of answer from the physical body as to what's going on in this area that you're asking. Can you
Right.
give a couple examples of the types of questions that you would, or the statements that you would make?
Okay, so I would, I can make the statement to the body, the liver, okay, is functioning at 100%. Okay, and so if the arm is rock solid, then the liver is functioning at 100%.
Which means it's a true statement.
Right, that's a true statement.
And if the liver is not
It
functioning at
goes weak.
100%,
Yeah, you cannot hold it up.
Yeah.
No way.
Okay.
So then I have to figure out, then I further travel that question and go figure out what is wrong with the liver. Okay, so if it is weak, if the liver is strong, functioning 100%, I move on. The liver may be involved later on down the line in what I find out, but at that point, I don't need that information. So then I usually just assess the body first to see what organs and glands are malfunctioning. And so then once I get that information, then I hone in and figure out what is going on with that organ or gland and or nervous system or whatever system it might be out of balance.
Are you randomly asking these questions, or do you have a checklist you're going down in your mind or on a sheet of paper?
Yeah, I usually have a checklist. I start at the pineal gland. I usually work on the head first, all the glands that are in the head, and assess them and see what's going on. Then I head to the thyroid, and then circulation, ribs, I just work my way down and assess all of that and see what's going on. And I make note of all of that because a lot of times there's a story to that. So depending on what's going on in the brain, if there's something going on in the brain, that could be what's affecting the other parts that are weak.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Education Corner. If you have a special talent or skill to relieve pain and you'd like to become a guest on our show, visit us at thecomellafoundation.org/interview. Help us spread the word on eliminating pain and suffering in the world. That's thecomellafoundation.org/interview. If a person shows up with pain, knee pain, neck pain, whatever type of pain they have, is your checklist the same? Are you doing the same checklist? Or are you going specifically in that area of the body? And
well, the initial visit, I scan the whole body, find out what's functioning at 100%, what isn't. And then when they come in with a specific situation, then I look and see those organs and glands that are weak. Are they what's causing some of this problem? All right. And so then I start assessing and evaluating that. So I can make statements to the body and say, that, what they are drinking, because I always check what foods people are eating because that can affect the body. So I'll say, so this soda is affecting the liver. Okay. And if I get a true statement, then I go, okay, well, now what we got to do is figure out what to do with this soda, because most people are highly addicted to sodas.
Sure.
And so we work on a process to start eliminating those sodas. Sometimes it's another organ or gland that is affecting. Okay, the thyroid, when it's functioning low affects a whole lot of the other body. So I also look at that too, because if the thyroid is functioning low, we have to work with that and get that balanced. So when I assess the thyroid, I check to see if it's the right lobe, the left lobe, that's being affected. And what is affecting it? Is it the fact that it doesn't have enough nutrients, to support it? And if it doesn't have enough nutrients, then we find out what is the nutrients it needs supported with. So then that may be a supplement like kelp. Kelp is very good for the thyroid. So, I'll muscle test them with the kelp to see at the thyroid point to see if that's strong. If it's strong, then that's a good supplement for them to take. So if it's strong but kind of weak, I go, okay, well, that's not exactly what we need. So I may look for another seaweed called dulse, which is very good for the thyroid too. And I may test that one. I may get to a point where there are what's called glandulars. And sometimes people's thyroids just need a kickstart with a glandular, because the glandular has the frequency to teach the thyroid to function better. So I will put that glandular in there and test them with that and see if that's what they need. Sometimes they need to start out with that, and then we can reduce it to the dulse or the kelp just to feed it.
So you're doing this in person when you're working with a client, and you have what am I asking? You have kelp and dulse, and you have all of these things in what does this look like? So a person that's listening can wrap their brain around what we're talking about. This person is sitting in front of you, standing in front of you, and
no, they're sitting in front of me.
Okay, sitting in front of you.
Yeah. So I have swivel chairs because I'm always turning them around.
Okay.
I'm going to be working on their back at times, so I have them in a swivel chair, and I'm just going, scanning their body, down through and testing. And then if the correction is on the back, then I spin them around and I go down the spine, and I use my hands. All I do is stimulate on either side of the spine at where the points are, whether it's thoracic 2, thoracic 5, thoracic 8. I just stimulate by manipulating the spine at that area, and that wakes up the nerves too. And so then I'll turn them back around, and then I'll muscle test them again in the liver area and see. And if they're strong, then I corrected the magnetic field that was out of balance. Okay. And so if they're still not strong, then I need to see, okay, what else is going on? So, that's when I'll maybe pull out some supplements, especially if the thyroid is functioning at 100%, or if it's not functioning 100%, and I do their spine and I come back and see it's functioning at 100%. So there was a blockage in the spine that was preventing the thyroid from getting what it needed to function right. So then if that's not the case, though, if I do that and the thyroid is still functioning weak, then I'll check the supplements. I may touch another organ or gland, because maybe that's affecting the thyroid. So it's a tricky thing, it's knowing about the body and what all the organs and glands are. And then I just, I'm just basically sitting them in a chair and working and spinning them and working on their spine or working on the front, whatever needs to be done. So, but it's all light touch. It's nothing, there is no force at all whatsoever.
Right.
It's lightly stimulating the spine.
So initially you're going to do something to stimulate, to bring the body back into balance. And if whatever you would do to bring the body back into balance doesn't work, now we're looking at a supplement or a homeopathic or something like that, or a treatment. Could you explain?
So treatment is, so then I would start looking and seeing, is it structural? So if it's structural, then I'm going to, work on the structure. All right. So I ascertain that when I get a weakness, then I am saying to their body, this is because of a structural issue. This is a dietary issue. This is a vitamin deficiency issue, so I can make those statements, and that can tell me, where to go. And I can say, this is the first thing that the body needs to address, this problem is a supplement. And if that's what it is, then I do. I've kind of, rather than doing the whole lot of work, I've started putting a whole lot of statements in so that I can hone it down and I'm not stressing the body out a lot.
Got it. This is all incredibly fascinating. So now we're going to take it to the whole other level of what we're moving in the direction of at the Comella Foundation, and you working in partnership with the Comella Foundation is creating essentially a portal on how we can use this muscle testing remotely. Now, I could just hear the people that are listening. How are they going to do that? So how does the muscle testing work? Because you could zip right through a person's body. We could zero in on exactly what they need to get help and support. How does that work when a person is not in front of you?
I can still hone in on their electromagnetic field. I mean, there's nothing that contains our electromagnetic field. It is out there. And so you have a footprint on this earth. Your magnetic field, your specific magnetic field has a footprint on this earth. And so everybody has that. And you can actually tap into that from a distance by muscle testing. Okay, so when you connect with somebody, whether it be visual, whether it be on the phone, okay, you can even think about them. And sometimes, this is a good analogy, all of a sudden you'll be thinking about somebody. All right. And you really, you're thinking a lot about them and wondering about them and stuff. And then all of a sudden they call you on the phone. I know everybody's had that happen. Okay. That's part of this. That's what this whole field is all about. We are all connected energetically. Okay. And so we can tap into that energy field from a distance. So I can assess and evaluate from a distance what is going on with somebody else on a screen, on a phone, and figure out what is going on with them. Now, usually what I do, and it depends on the person I'm working with, because sometimes I'm working with people who can't treat themselves. So what I do is I treat it myself and send it to them.
Got it. Now, what pops into my head is when I was watching the movie Apollo 13. And there was that time in the movie, well, this happened in real life as well, where the astronauts were on the dark side of the moon and they lost communication. And then everybody on Earth knew this was happening and they were praying for that the astronauts, that they would be safe, that they would make it through. And that happened. So what I hear you saying is more of a universal principle of how we can connect with one another with intention and focus and good thoughts and things such as that. That this is when you're working with someone, you're looking at them either on Zoom or you're talking with them on the phone, or they've sent you an email and what you need to do, who you need to work with. That is something you can do either one of those ways or all three of those. Email. Okay. Email. Email, Zoom, or a phone call.
Correct.
Okay. So I am envisioning, and I didn't realize about the email piece, if a person was reaching out. And so the vision we had for the portal with the Comella Foundation is that they could reach out to you and you can basically go through the list of people that I have interviewed on the podcast to know what they're dealing with, whatever pain that person is dealing with. You would be able to, through the muscle testing, line them up with the specific practitioner that is partnering with the Comella Foundation that would be able to help them the most.
Right. Right. Because really my connection, when I make that connection with them, whether it be by mail, like you said, whether, you know, it's by talking to me, I'm connected with them. So I can muscle test from a distance and muscle test them with the practitioners listed. Yes. And be able to find which one would be the one for them to start with. I mean, they may start with one practitioner and then they usually will know when they're done with that practitioner, and then they can contact me again and say, okay, I'm pretty sure, or they can ask me, am I done with this practitioner? Is this practitioner taking me as far as he or she can take me? And then I can ascertain that and then move them on to the next person, if there is a next person. I mean, that's the way I look at this whole journey in healing. It's a process. It's going to be always different people coming in and out of your life. It's not that I was upset with any of the practitioners that had taken me so far. I didn't leave them because I was angry with them. I left them because they did what they were supposed to do. They did their job for me. So now I need to move to the next practitioner so that they can take the job from there and take it further. Move me to the next level that I need to be at.
So if someone were to reach out to you via email, and I'm thinking this would totally get us over the whole technology hump.
Yes.
That if someone were to send you an email and they were to say, hey, what would they need to put in that email to get to you so you would be able to muscle test on their behalf to identify which one of the practitioners affiliated with the Comella Foundation would be able to help them the most?
They would need to, I would need their name specifically.
Okay.
Their name. I would like, for me personally, I would like to have the age. So that helps me. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
You know, they can, if they want to tell me what's going on with them, they can, or if they just want to know what practitioner they may need, they know what they're looking for. I don't really have to know it. As long as they know what they're looking for, I can lead them.
Can they
testing from a distance to see who is the practitioner they need to work with?
So they could just be like, well, I'm looking for who would help me the most.
Yes.
That would be it. Like, we don't have to get more into detail. I'm looking for someone to help my right big toenail. Like, we don't need to know that. We just need to know, oh, I need help. I'm limping. I need help. Who's going to help me the most?
Right. Because it could be somebody who does emotional work that may help with that limping. You know, that may be the first place to go. You know, being released from whatever causes them to limp emotionally. You know, so we just automatically look at our bodies in a certain way and think we need to follow this procedure because that's basically what we've been taught in the medical system. And so that may not be the case. There may be some other reason why something is happening into the body.
Yeah. Well, we certainly, it's been my own experience that the body is much more nuanced than, you know, like, oh, I just need a nutritional program, or I need a physical program, or I need a, you know, emotional something to support me, or supplementation. I just need, what supplements do I need to take? So it's much more nuanced than that. And what I hear you saying is we can, instead of trying to figure out what that is yourself, we can reach out to you and you can go, that right there.
Yeah.
And that is going to move you forward most, right, based on the time that you sent that email.
Right.
And
exactly. That's the thing too, based on that time, because, you know, you can have a symptom one day and the next day it's gone. something is, I mean, that's a body is amazing. It can take care of things. And
Sure.
sometimes it doesn't,
Sure.
take care of things right away. So.
What would you say to someone that is skeptical about, like, I don't know, that's weird, that's hokey, that's what would you say to someone
I would
that,
say, yeah, I agree with you. It does look weird. Seems kind of hokey.
yeah,
All I know is that if I didn't get into this field, if I wouldn't have been in that automobile accident, I would not have been in this field, and I would not be where I am today. And it's all because of knowing that my body knows what it needs to do. I don't need to know what it needs to do. The body does. And so if I can access what the body says it needs done first, my journey could have been shortened.
Yeah.
Because of the process. And that's what happens with me now. When I work with people, I get through people. It's not taking them, 37 years
Sure.
to get to where I'm at.
Sure.
It's taking them a lot less because I have this experience, and now I know how to work with people and get them to where they need to be faster.
Now, in addition to, because we were envisioning this portal as being maybe a 5-minute something or other, you would have the list of the people that I've interviewed. You would have that ability to listen to the podcast, the interview with them, as well as reach out to them directly to say, hey, I'd just like to get to know you a little better, so I have an understanding of how we can guide and direct people to you, this individual practitioner. We had that envision of that portal piece. It would be a short thing to point them in the right direction, but they also have the ability to work with you directly.
Yes.
So we will have that available for them as well, where they can schedule a time to book an appointment, a consultation to work directly with you. So you would take them through that checklist, that series, and you would be able to help and guide and support them with the muscle testing in the context of a longer appointment, longer, more extensive support.
Yeah. And that's what I do when I work with them. Is I also get a lot of information from them too, because that does help in the directions that I feel I need to go. With the many years I've been doing this is what I've learned. And so just by getting their information, I automatically know where I need to start. And I will muscle test then to make sure that is correct. That's where I need to start.
Yeah.
So, but it's really rather simple.
Yeah.
It's not real complicated, and people are amazed when they come and get worked on, and and how things change in their life.
And this is occurring to me because the interviews that I'm doing the Comella Foundation is located in Western North Carolina in the Asheville area. And there are some people that we are interviewing on the podcast that are local to the Asheville area. If someone is reaching out, and we can get all of that set up in a form that can be emailed to you. So we would have their name, first and last name. We would have their age, which would be optional. Would their location play any role in information that you would need to know?
It's not something I would need to know. I just work on the fact that I like having information because, the area that they're living in, depending, could have some play in why they're physically or emotionally or whatever experiencing things. Plus, that just gives me, when I'm giving direction as to what I have been led to tell them where they need to go and what they need to do, that just helps me to know. For instance, like you live in a warmer state than I live in,
Right.
So, knowing that can help me know better what to tell them to do. And for instance, they can get outside and do anything, any time of the year. I've got to deal with winters, so, and bitter cold. So, sometimes getting outside and getting fresh air, even in the winter, is beneficial. But just knowing the area, it can be helpful, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
Because eventually I'll find that out anyways when I'm talking with them, when I come up with what I feel they need to do, then I'm going to go, what area are you in? So I know whether.
Right. And that would be if they were working with you in the context of a consultation. I'm thinking of the portal piece, the quick, you're doing the muscle testing remotely to kind of guide and direct them who's going to be able to help them the most right now. So I'm thinking this through, that if they put in their location, would that be beneficial in any way?
Well, it would be to a degree, because then if there's somebody in that area, that they could be sent to.
Okay.
For their next treatment, or not next, with their next session. Okay. With where the body wants to go next, there may be somebody in that area.
Okay.
So, and they can just go directly face to face, because, practitioners, we're now getting more involved in doing computer,
right.
Techniques, or not techniques, but getting on the computer and finding people that are going to be beneficial in whatever field, whether it's medical or whether it's natural or whatever. We're getting more comfortable with that these days. So, but there are people too, who would rather just, would rather go to somebody. So, I'm that person, if I can work with somebody in person, I prefer to work in person rather than remotely. But I'm getting onto this.
Got it.
I'm doing it since COVID, so I'm
sure. So I'm just thinking this through to how to guide our web people to set this up, because I think that would be infinitely easier if you just received an email.
Oh yeah.
And be able to knock that out, rather than figuring out all of the Zoom and scheduling and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
That they would be able to send, come to the website, go to the portal, fill out the information they need, hit send, it goes to you, you can do what your thing is, and you can reply to them, and then they would be able to have the link for that specific practitioner.
Yes.
Listen to the interview I did with them, and then they're on their way. They're getting the support that they need. Cool.
Yeah.
Jeanie, is there anything else that you're looking over? Because we made some bullet points to cover on the call today. Is there anything that's popping into your head that I didn't cover that you would like to talk about? Because I'm kind of getting a sense that it feels kind of complete. Like we got kind of to a good place.
Yes, we did get into a good place. And there, what was shared is, I think, when you're in this kind of field, and when you start in this kind of field, and everybody, you have those people out there who really attack you. They attack you verbally, and you learn to deal with that also. And I had the experience of working for 7 years for some doctors, some medical doctors who worked naturally with hormones. And they invited me to come into their practice. And that was a very, very interesting journey. The one thing I learned on that journey, which I knew I was going there to learn. And so the one thing that was so beneficial for me to learn was the fact that they were sending me clients, and their on their chart was, these letters like MTHFR. And I saw that and I thought, okay, I got to research this because I'm working on these people. I need to know a little bit more about this. And here I found out it was a genetic defect. And so through finding that out, I thought, oh, okay, so this makes things a little different. I wasn't sure how, but basically it only made a difference as far as how to test them for supplements, making sure they get the appropriate supplements. And that would be with any of the genetic defects, that I'm familiar with now, because then I started doing a research on genetic defects. And so, but what I did find out was that I started muscle testing for these genetic defects, which was quite interesting, and ended up, they would send me a client and I would automatically test them right away to see if they had a genetic defect, and they would. And so then I would send them back to the doctor that sent them to me, and I would say, okay, this person has, I'll use the example MTHFR. And so you may want to test that, because that one is really important, because if you have a genetic defect with MTHFR, that can cause heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots. And so they, the doctors have to be aware that any certain types of supplements that they give a medication, that has to be able to be dealt with a defective methylation process in the body. So anyways, that was very interesting to find out. So the head doctor, she was funny. I would send, I'd give her, I'd talk to her actually, because I worked in the same office. And when that client would leave, I would say, hey, look, you really need to, test physically MTHFR to see if this person has this genetic defect. And so then she dubbed it the fact that it got to the point where if she suspected somebody had it, rather than have the blood test done, she would just send them to me and I would test them. And then if she wanted to, she would test just to see. And she found out that, through the muscle testing, it was 100% correct.
Oh, wow. Cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And what's really neat is I found out that I have the MTHFR gene defect.
Oh.
So my mother had 5 heart attacks. And the first heart attack, she was hospitalized for 3 months. And I did not know this information at the time, but now that I look back at that, they were probably gave her, because they couldn't figure out, it was supposed to be a simple surgery. They couldn't figure out why she did not, why she, was responding the way she was. And now with, I look back at that situation and realize the medication, because I told them she was very sensitive to medication, and told them, you have to get her off some of this medication. She can't take all this. Just put on what she actually has to have. She eventually came through that surgery. And it was later on that I learned about the MTHFR. She has the MTHFR gene. That's where I got it from. And so then I, started connecting with my siblings and finding out which one of them have the MTHFR gene, and making sure they were on the appropriate supplements to keep them and to prevent them from having heart attacks, blood clots, and strokes. So,
cool.
So yeah, so the muscle testing can be a preventative measure also, finding out something like that, and determining what you need to do to help thwart, you running into the same health issues that family members have run into.
Sure. That was cool.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much more about you, and I've known you for years. Cool. Well, Jeanie, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Are you getting over the jitters?
I didn't really have them. I was stumbling for words, just basically because I've never done this before, had to sit down in front of a computer and explain everything about me. So
yeah,
I got more comfortable with it as it went along.
Excellent. Okay. Well, cool. Well, we're going to have all information in the show notes, as well as a button down below where people can go and fill out the information to send you the form that you can muscle test them and reply to them and give them the what for, the direction they need to go.
All right. Sounds good.
I want to thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. This was super fun. And did you have anything else you would like to share right before we wrap up here?
I don't know if this is something I need to share now or with you afterwards.
Okay. Well,
It has to do with connecting with me, because I can't do this 24/7.
oh, understood. Yeah, we'll be good. You know,
Okay.
it'll be fine. Like we could turn off the water valve at any point in time, or turn
Okay.
on or turn up or turn down, whatever we
All
need.
right.
And I'm sure you know other people that do muscle testing as well, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, cool. It'll be all good. Okay, well then I'm gonna wrap the call up. This is, well, the Pain Education Podcast, brought to you on behalf of the Comella Foundation. This is Bill Paravano, the knee pain guru, thanking you so much for being here. Thank you, Jeanie. And I want to wish you and everyone else watching to have a wonderful day. And we will see you on the next one.
Sounds good.
Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of the Pain Education Corner. Join us next week for another conversation on natural healing methods to eliminate pain. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, COMELLA Foundation.org.